These are the hands of a saint, bleeding with the wounds of Christ. For centuries, the Church has presented this phenomenon, the stigmata, as the ultimate sign of divine favor, a miracle written in flesh and blood. But is this the touch of God or the work of a con man? For every story of a saint in divine ecstasy, there is a whisper of secret investigations, accusations of fraud, and medical reports that were quickly buried. The history of stigmata is not a clean story of faith. It is a detective story filled with true believers, cunning imposters, and the unsettling possibility of a third option, a force that is neither divine nor fraudulent, but something born from the depths of the human mind itself. In this video, we will investigate the most famous cases of stigmata, from the first miracle of St. Francis of Assisi to the global controversy of Padre Pio. We will analyze the evidence for fraud, the case for a genuine supernatural force, and the psychological theories that lie in between. If you are ready to solve the mystery of the holy wounds, subscribe now and join our investigation. Our story begins on a desolate, wind-swept mountain in Italy in the year 1224. A man, emaciated from fasting, kneels on a rough stone. His name is Francesco, but the world would come to know him as St. Francis of Assisi. He had retreated to the sacred solitude of Mount Alverna for a 40-day period of prayer, hoping to feel closer to the suffering of the Savior he so deeply adored. His every waking thought was meditation on the Passion of Christ. He didn't just want to understand the crucifixion. He wanted to experience it, and on or around the feast of the exaltation of the cross. His wish was granted in the most terrifying way imaginable. According to his earliest biographers, like Thomas of Celano, as Francis prayed at dawn, he saw a vision. The sky, he said, was filled with a blinding light. A figure descended from the heavens at incredible speed. It had 6 wings of fiery feathers, like a seraph, the highest order of angel. But this angelic being was nailed to a cross. It was a vision of both divine glory and ultimate agony. Francis was filled with a paradoxical mixture of ecstatic joy at seeing his Lord and profound sorrow at witnessing his pain. The vision spoke to him, revealing secrets he would never share. As it faded, leaving him trembling in the cold mountain air, he felt a searing, physical pain shoot through his hands, his feet, and his side. When he gathered the courage to look down, he saw that his body had become a canvas for the vision. Dark, fleshy marks that looked like the heads of iron nails had appeared in the center of his palms and on the tops of his feet. On the other side, the wounds were open and bleeding, as if the points of the nails had pushed through. His side bore a clean wound, as if pierced by a Roman lance. For the remaining 2 years of his life, Francis would do everything he could to hide these marks, wrapping his hands and feet in bandages, ashamed of what he saw as an honor too great for any mortal man. This was the first recorded case of stigmata. It was a miracle that would define sainthood for centuries to come, the ultimate proof that a human could become so unified with God that their own flesh would be rewritten. For those who believe, the story of St. Francis is the gold standard, but it is far from the only one. The Church officially recognizes over 300 stigmatists, and some of their cases are so medically baffling they seem to actively mock rational explanation. Consider Therese Neumann, a humble German peasant girl from the small village of Konnersreuth. In 1926, after a lifetime of piety and suffering from various ailments, she began to experience visions of Christ's passion. Soon after, the wounds appeared, but her stigmata were not constant. They were cyclical, a horrifying weekly ritual. Every Thursday night, she would fall into a trance. The wounds on her hands, feet, and side would open. Wounds would appear on her head as if from a crown of thorns, and her eyes would weep tears of blood as she audibly relived the final hours of crucifixion, sometimes speaking in what witnesses claimed was ancient Aramaic. By Friday afternoon, the bleeding would stop, and by Sunday, the wounds would be partially healed, only to repeat the entire cycle the following week. This bizarre, clockwork-like nature of her condition allowed for intense scrutiny. She was observed around the clock by skeptical doctors, psychologists, and church officials. They could find no evidence of self-harm. They noted that the blood seemed to flow against gravity, and that the wounds never became infected, despite being open and weeping for nearly 40 years. But the most impossible aspect of her story was her alleged anedia, the Latin word for fasting. From 1926 until her death in 1962, Therese Newman allegedly consumed no food whatsoever and drank no liquid other than a single, tiny communion wafer each day. This is a biological impossibility. The human body cannot survive for more than a few days without water. Yet, a 15-day observation period in 1927, conducted by a medical doctor and 4 Franciscan nurses, confirmed that she did not eat or drink anything, and her weight remained stable. Cases like Therese Newman are the foundation of the force argument. They present physical phenomena that defy our understanding of medicine and physics. For the faithful, this force is clearly God. But for others, it raises a question. If a supernatural force is at work, how can we be certain of its origin or its intent? Now, we must turn the coin over and look at its darker, more cynical side. For every story of inexplicable phenomena like Therese Newman, there's another that is mired in suspicion, controversy, and accusations of deliberate deceit. And no case is more famous or more controversial than that of the beloved 20th century saint Padre Pio. For 50 years, from 1918 until his death in 1968, Padre Pio bore the 5 wounds of Christ. He became a global icon, a living saint. Millions of pilgrims flocked to his small friary in San Giovanni Rotondo, Italy, to attend his Mass, to have him hear their confession, and catch a glimpse of the famous bleeding wounds, which he almost always kept carefully covered with brown, fingerless gloves. He was credited with countless miracles, healing the sick by location and reading the hearts of sinners. But behind this immense public adoration, the Holy See in Rome was deeply suspicious. The Vatican launched no fewer than 4 separate investigations into him. His mail was intercepted, his room was bugged with hidden microphones, and his fellow friars were interrogated. For years at a time, the Vatican sanctioned its most famous living saint, forbidding him from saying public Mass, from hearing confessions, from even speaking to his spiritual followers. Why would the Church launch a decades-long campaign of persecution against a man they would later declare a saint? The answer may lie in the archives. The most damning accusations came from Agostino Gemelli, a respected physician, a Franciscan friar himself, and the founder of Milan's Catholic University. After a brief examination of Padre Pio in 1920, Gemelli wrote a scathing report to the Vatican. He concluded that the wounds were not supernatural. He diagnosed Pio as a psychopath and an imposter whose wounds were self-inflicted and maintained by chemical means. Specifically, he and other investigators pointed to carbolic acid, a corrosive phenol that Pio was known to purchase. Pio claimed it was for sterilizing needles. His accusers claimed it was to create and continually irritate his wounds, causing painful chemical burns that would never heal, perfectly mimicking the appearance of stigmata. Was Padre Pio a conduit for God's grace, or a cunning manipulator engaged in a 50-year-long pious fraud to inspire faith through deception? So we have 2 extremes: a supernatural force that breaks the laws of physics, and deliberate fraud that exploits the laws of faith. But what if there is a third path? A path that lies not in heaven or in a bottle of acid, but in the uncharted, labyrinthine territory of the human mind. This is the psychosomatic explanation. We know that the mind is a powerful and often terrifying influence over the body. It is a documented medical fact. In cases of convulsion disorder, once called hysteria, patients can develop real physical symptoms, paralysis, blindness, seizures, with no underlying physical cause. Their suffering is real, but its origin is psychological. The placebo effect is the benevolent twin of this phenomenon. A person's absolute belief that a sugar pill is a powerful medicine can trigger a genuine, measurable physical healing. The mind convinces the body, and the body obeys. Could stigmata be the ultimate expression of this power? Imagine a person of extreme faith, like St. Francis or the countless devout nuns who have borne the marks. Their entire existence becomes a singular, obsessive meditation on the suffering of Christ. Through intense prayer, fasting, and visualization, they don't just think about the passion. They attempt to live it. They feel the thorns, the nails, the spear. Their empathy is so complete, so all-consuming, that it becomes a form of profound self-hypnosis. Is it possible that this state of mind could be so powerful that it commands the body to manifest the wounds it so vividly imagines? In this view, the stigmatist is neither a saint touched by God nor a fraudulent trickster. They are a psychological marvel. Their wounds are real, their pain is real, but the source is internal. It is a miracle, not a divine intervention, but the terrifying and largely unknown power of human consciousness to shape its own physical reality. This explanation, in some ways, is far more mysterious and far more unsettling than any simple miracle. So, where does this investigation leave us? In a blurry landscape of fraud, force, and psychology. The truth is likely a tangled mixture of all three. Some cases may be genuine fraud. Others may be genuine psychological phenomena. And a few, like Therese Newman, may contain elements that remain stubbornly, truly inexplicable. But perhaps the real conspiracy is not about the origin of any single case. Perhaps the conspiracy is about the usefulness of the phenomenon itself, regardless of its source. Consider the perspective of a powerful, ancient institution like the Church. Its power is derived from its claim to be the sole arbiter of divine truth. A genuine stigmatist is a powerful asset, a living, breathing testament to the truth of the Gospels. But a convincing fraud or a deeply devout hysteric can be just as useful. A person whose wounds are so real they inspire faith in millions is a powerful tool for maintaining belief, whether the wounds are caused by God, by acid, or by the mind. The ultimate goal of the institution is to perpetuate the faith. And nothing reinforces faith like a powerful spectacle of sacred suffering. The blood of the stigmata makes the abstract story of the crucifixion immediate, real, and visceral. It closes the 2,000-year gap between the believer and their Savior. Therefore, the Church has a vested interest in promoting and validating cases of stigmata that capture the public imagination, while simultaneously investigating behind closed doors to root out only the most clumsy and obvious hoaxes that could damage their credibility. The real mystery, then, is not whether the wounds are real or fake. It's whether that distinction even matters to an institution that understands, more than anyone, that belief itself is the most powerful force on earth. The blood may be holy or it may be a lie, but the faith it inspires is undeniably real.